Help us keep the Product Porch lights on by giving at patreon.com/theproductporch. Please review the podcast on your favorite platform. Your reviews help new listeners discover us. Thanks.
Most of the time, every single one of these techniques has been deployed to great effect at some organization somewhere. Otherwise, they wouldn't exist. But it's like they see the before and after shot, and they don't see all the middle, the road that led there. And that's the important bit, is the middle that gets you there.
Welcome to the Product Porch with Ryan Cantwell, Todd Blockier, and myself, Joe Golly. There are a lot of product techniques that claim to be silver bullet solutions, but which ones could actually take down a werewolf? Now settle in, folks, because on the Product Porch, every topic is a product topic. Are you ready? Are we excited to be back on the porch?
Oh, we're always excited to be back on the porch, Joe.
I'm ready for whatever Todd's going to throw my way. I don't think our audience needs to know that during the podcast, he'll change like our signatures. He'll like add copy, and then it's like you'll know who's really paying attention and who is paying attention. So I'm just excited for what Todd's going to throw me. Anyways, so all of us in our careers, we've navigated these different silver bullet solutions, right? We come to an organization and someone's like, if we do this one new thing, this new process, or we implement this new software, it's going to solve all of our issues. We're going to be a well-oiled machine. We're going to start generating extra revenue. But we know as product leaders, as product professionals, there isn't such a thing as a silver bullet. So the question is, what do we do when we're presented with a silver bullet solution?
Maybe we should define what a magic or silver bullet solution is. Did you have something in mind, Joe?
I'll give an example. I was at another organization and one of the leaders was very keen on launching a new road mapping software. His hypothesis, his contention was, man, if we do this, we're going to have stronger stakeholder relationships. We're going to be more strategic. We're going to have stronger teams. And all we got to do, I'm telling you, all we got to do is implement this new software.
Okay.
It's the cure. It's the silver bullet. You do this one thing and at your organization, it could be I'm buying software. It could be I'm trying out a new process. I'm implementing a new product management framework. I'm implementing this new technique. It's a perception that this single new technique, so, product, technology, whatever, is going to just magically cure your issues and create instantaneous extra revenue for your organization.
Okay. So there's usually a business outcome that's going to be positively impacted, or the perception is we just need to do this. And then magic happens.
Abracadabra.
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 Okay. I like this because I have seen this happen too, Joe. More than I'd care to admit.
I can understand why this happens. The temptation to find a quick fix to something is really tempting. So I'm not a big fan of working out. I work out multiple times a week. I'm not a fan. Never been a fan. It's boring. Honestly, counting reps, could there be something more boring? 1, 2, 3. 1,
counting reps.
2. But if you could tell me I could maintain my entire muscle mass and just flexibility the rest of my life, I just need to do this one thing, one time a week, I'd be down. I would do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And as a product leader, I fall into the same temptation. We had a great session with Zach talking about AI design sprints. I'm using those tools in my business.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I would love for those tools just to solve all our design challenges. They don't. It's very tempting, and it's an easy kind of path to sell, right? To sell the easy button. Just do this one thing and boom, all your problems go away. All your dreams will come true.
If you think about it, when we look on social media and we read the news, there's a lot of pressure put on product managers, product leaders right now. We're under a lot of pressure. And I think it's not even just the product leaders. I think it's the executives, the leadership. They're under pressure by their stakeholders, whether they be Wall Street or internal. Okay, what can we do to turn a quick ROI? What's that silver bullet? What's that one thing we can do to turn our business around? And in the times like this, it's hard not to give into that temptation.
Well, that's the challenge, right? I mean, you're talking about the root cause. The root cause analysis is the QBR. The QBR, the quarterly business review or quarterly business report, is the root of all evil, right? We have 3 months to show that everything is better. All arrows have to be pointing up 3 months from now. No matter what metrics you're measuring, you got 3 months to make that arrow go up.
Yeah.
And so, so there's a lot of pressure. Can we, what's the thing that can turn that arrow up? And I think as consultants, we ran into that a lot, right?
Totally.
I mean, how many times did you feel meeting with one of your clients? That was really what they're asking for. Just tell us the one thing we need to do.
Yeah.
Tell us the prioritization framework that will fix everything.
Yeah, I mean, we've been exposed to it a lot. So I want to hear from you guys. Which ones have you seen? Like, what are the common sins?
The most common is the adoption of Agile.
Oh, say more, please.
I experienced this at Reader's Digest. One day our leader said, we're going to adopt Agile and we're going to deliver value faster. It's going to be less expensive. We're going to have stronger teams. We're going to deliver more value. It wasn't the cure, right? There are a lot of underlying issues, but a stand-up just becomes a status update. Or
Right.
Your Agile is really waterfall disguised as something else. It's water fail or whatever you want to call it, scrum fail.
Agile in name only. That's what we call it.
Agile becomes, and then it becomes the people start blaming it. Then the person that brings it in gets their head chopped off. They get asked to leave,
Joe, I think you said something important there, and I expect we're going to see this theme throughout the rest of our conversation. They didn't fix the underlying issues.
Correct.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting is you mentioned Agile. I feel like for like 10 years of my career, maybe even more, I just heard Agile every week, all the time. There's a lot of Agile finger waving. You remember that? That's not Agile. That's not Agile. That's like just everyone doing that every day to each other. Wait, that's not Agile. What happened? Suddenly, recently, it feels like that's not a thing anymore. There's some pushback on Agile. There's even, I was thinking we need to do another episode, and it's just a funeral. We should just do a funeral episode of just all the things. Just say the eulogies to the different things that have died. It'll be a funeral. But yeah, that omnipresence of Agile has gone away.
One of my favorites, guys, and I think this is a little more ubiquitous in product management, it's voice of the customer. We need to do better voice of the customer. I have had leaders look at a product team and they say, okay, we have not had successful product launches. We've got this history now of failure, and we're going to do more voice of the customer to fix it.
And I love the way that's used, voice of the customer. One of my favorite questions when getting pressured by clients that we need more voice of the customer was, that's fantastic. Can you describe to me what voice of the customer means to you? First off, I've gotten so many answers to that, but the most common one is, so we need to know what our customers need or what our customers want.
Or what they want. Oh my God.
Yeah, what they want. That's all. We need to know what our customer. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So that's what's funny is I think it's a principle to this entire conversation, right?
Yes.
It's over and over again. You don't get much further than the name of the thing.
Surface. Yeah.
Maybe you get one sentence in and that's about as deep as you go.
Yeah. So it feels good to say, it's like skipping to dessert. We say we're doing voice of the customer or we're doing Agile, and you haven't gotten the nutrition of, okay, what does good voice of the customer mean? And it means, like, it still blows my mind with organizations. Yeah, we do voice of the customer. I tell my product managers to go talk to 10 customers this year. And you know what those product managers do? They wait until November, schedule 10 calls with salespeople, go listen to those 10 sales calls and say, I did it. I talked to 10 customers this year. And that couldn't be further from the truth. So let me define what I think voice of the customer really is. It's where you have a set of assumptions that you are validating with the people who actually matter, the people who use and buy your product. And you are making sure you are learning on a continuous basis and checking those assumptions off and developing new ones and going to check those off and then developing new ones and then checking those off. And it's an engine that never stops. It's not just having a conversation with a customer. It's along with a salesperson or something like that. It frustrates me to no end.
You mentioned something there about a metric. Meet with 10 customers a year. Okay, so you're saying that's not the right metric. What is the right metric? So if you really want to be voice of the customer and apply that, maybe it's not the right metric. There's probably many right kinds of metrics, but help me describe what's a good metric if your goal is to implement voice of the customer practice.
So a metric I have used to do this better. I'm not saying it's the perfect one. I'm saying it's better. But instead, it is a rolling 30-day. You have to go do a discovery call with a customer. And I'm not talking with a salesperson. I'm not talking with tech support. I'm saying the proactive. I need to schedule a call and have that FaceTime with somebody who's actually using my product or buying my product. It has to be happening continuously. And those discovery calls are going to be directed by the assumptions you need to test, like what it is you're trying to learn. And you don't know what you need to learn until you start learning and what things need to happen. So I'm going to use that as a good frame for me. If I'm a product leader or a product manager, I'm going to hold myself accountable that way.
So I look at the metrics a little bit differently because I think there's a metric there around how often are you updating your roadmap? Because what should be happening is the more you talk to your customers, the more you identify new opportunities, new problems to be solved, right? And so one of the things I tell product leaders is, your product manager is doing enough discovery when you notice some cadence of updates to their roadmap, right? Because ultimately it's identification of these new trends, identification of new problems that will result in a roadmap that's really, that really portrays or demonstrate the current needs of your customer. I also used to look at things like how often are you updating your personas? Because as you're delivering value, you're watching what the needs are going to change because they're reacting to whatever you've delivered. Over time, their goals and objectives are going to change. Their pains are going to change. So I'm less on the number of times and I'm more focused on the parts of the persona, even though you mentioned that earlier, or parts of the roadmap, that tells me, do they have a pulse of what's going on? I just look at it I have a little bit of a nuance there.
I want to clarify something too, because I think it would be easy for people to hear what you just said, how often they're updating the roadmap, and think I can call a customer, they will tell me what they want, and I will put the new feature on my roadmap. And that's not what you mean.
Definitely. It's definitely not what I mean, because it shouldn't be like, when we think about it, and I don't want to go into a whole discussion about roadmaps, but it's like, there are like different things that influence a roadmap.
Sure.
Right? Are you doing enough competitive? Are you just doing an Excel spreadsheet where you're just tracking features and comparing them, and then that's driving what you're doing in a roadmap? Or are you doing some version of a pastel where you're understanding what's happening in the marketplace, and then how is that reflected in your roadmap? Like, those are the things, that's like kind of the nuance that you should be looking for.
So Joe, I love what you're saying there, and see if I could sum that up a little bit. So I think what you're saying is it's represented by the qualitative and perhaps quantitative data that you present based on your customer learnings. Yeah. So when you can defend, this is the decision because we learned X, which is important.
Yep.
And a big part of that is being able to say, whatever your persona's name is Joe. I spoke to 5 Joes this last month. And one thing all the Joes are saying is this. This is something I'm hearing consistently. There's this theme. They're all having this. They're all thinking about this right now. that tells us there's a signal there. Maybe we do explore. I love that. I'm going to share another metric, and this is going to blow your mind. When I tell you that I track this, you two might fall down.
Okay.
But I got smelling salts, so you're going to be okay. I have certain key personas that we're focused on based on the outcomes we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And I track the number of touch points with them.
Tell me what a touch point is.
Touch points, it's a meeting. It could be a meeting that they have with them. It could be it could be a specific tiny act of discovery, because that's what I use. It could be a specific experiment, a specific interview, a specific thing that they need. Could be usability tests. Very outputty, very probably anti-Todd. You're like, you probably wouldn't have guessed at me doing that. But here's the way I see it. To me, it's a health metric. That's what it is. Not a success metric.
Not success. It's health.
It's a health metric. For me, it's if we can go an entire quarter and not have regular touch points with the key persona that we're talking about all the time, the one that we're supposed to be focused on. This outcome's about Joe.
Yeah.
Right? We want to help Joe do this thing. If I can go an entire quarter and not talk to any Joes, we're just not doing it right.
You're guessing.
So it's a health metric.
Yeah. Well,
right.
And that's indirectly tied to risk and de-risking, right? And like all those other things. Yeah, I'm not going to fall down on the floor. So for our listeners, I'm mildly surprised. I'm not shocked, but I think that makes sense though, right? Yeah. The number of touch, I kind of dig it because it demonstrates, do you have a pulse of what's going on?
But it's not the be all metric. To your point, Joe, if the real value is the data that we're getting from that and being able to defend the problems that we're choosing to solve, the direction we're going with our solutions. Anyway, we went really deep on voice of customer. Maybe Ryan, I know you have a game idea. Maybe we should introduce your game so we can get some other things out.
All right. So are you ready for the game, fellas?
Let's do this.
All right, we're gonna do a round. So we all have our lists of techniques, right? All right. So each one of us is gonna pick a couple. Maybe we can move quickly on this. And what I'm gonna call this game is silver bullet or shot in the foot. And this is what it means. So if I present something like voice of customer, you're going to each tell me it's a silver bullet, and the silver bullet's defined this way. If it's used right, typically, this one can be a game changer. Or shot in the foot, where no, that one usually backfires because it's misunderstood and poorly executed.
That's going to be challenging. Let's do it.
All right. So here we go. The first one I have for you guys is implementing a new software. Something like fill in the blank, Jira, Salesforce, HubSpot, Product Board.
Vercel, Bolt, ChatGPT.
New ones. Yeah, ChatGPT. Yeah. All of them.
I think it's a shot in the foot.
Shot in the foot. Why?
You're putting too much weight on one single thing that's going to... Usually there's an underlying reason why things aren't working. We're not understanding the problem. We're not understanding the who. We're not understanding the why. We hear that this is what's happening in the market, or we hear that this is something we should do, or we hear a competitor is implementing it. And we immediately think if we just switch to this new tool, it's going to fix our inbound leads, or it's going to fix our ability to do data analysis without really understanding what problem we're trying to solve or how we're going to even measure it. We're just going to say, if we can just get there, if we can just get across the finish line and press play and enter it, I think it's shot in the foot.
All right. Shot in the foot from Joe. Todd?
All right. I'm going to have to stick with Joe, though. I think it's a shot in the foot. The reason I say that is, it's not to say all of these different tools are so valuable, but it's to the reliance on that tool, right? It's the faith that the tool will save you. That's the shot in the foot. I think that's, just adding to Joe's point.
But I mean, I got to say this though, right? You guys know I'm a big change management person. What is missing in a lot of the cases with these tools is a with them, right? No one understands why we're doing it. They're just told we're going to do it. Right. No one understands the value. What's going to happen if we don't do it? How are we going to measure success? What metrics are we going to use to know? Are we going to pay it? Like, there's just so much underlying debt that comes with that you're already behind the 8 ball once you implement it.
Exactly. And I'm with you both. I agree. It's a shot in the foot. All right, Joe, you want to lay one on us? Todd and I will answer.
Product demos.
Product demos. Are these internal demos before
Yeah,
release?
these are internal demos. So this is like at the end of a sprint, you do a demo of what was delivered to stakeholders, right?
Okay.
This is typically coordinated by the product owner. And the goal is you bring stakeholders and you share them the increment of work that was delivered. It gives them a chance to ask questions, get feedback. And what should happen is it should help to influence the backlog and in turn help influence your roadmap. So you're constantly delivering, you're constantly getting feedback and being more iterative versus like a waterfall approach where you're just waiting for feedback at the end. So product demos.
Yeah. So I've got a very quick answer for this one, Joe. Shot in the foot. I think too often demos are used as a proxy for QA, QC practices. And also, the people in the room cannot look past themselves and see and empathize with the customer. They just say what they think. The engineer thinks, well, it should be designed this way because I'm the engineer. And the designer says, well, I like the blue one, not the green one. Why did you make it red?
I agree with Ryan. I'm going to add this, though, to turn this from a shot to the foot to a silver bullet. The way you turn it into one is it's all about the pre-work.
Oh,
the hardest part is when the product demo should never be the first time that you're seeing it, that the stakeholders are hearing about it. That's when it's a shot in the foot. That's when you're going to find out problems you hadn't considered, things you should have thought of, and you're getting yourself stuck and you're holding back releases.
Good call.
As long as everyone's involved early on, the product demo could be very valuable. It's an opportunity to celebrate. You could identify something, but it tends to go much more smoothly than that. And it's more of a checkpoint.
Well, and if I can add on to that, many times the stakeholder doesn't understand their role at the product demo. So a lot of the pre-work also involves the agenda. And like I used to tell my product owners, go talk to the stakeholders so they understand what their role is in this meeting.
Yep.
Right? Because to them, it's going to look like another meeting. They're probably going to be double booked. They're probably not going to show up because they don't understand their role. And then they're going to be upset 6 weeks from now or 8 weeks from now when whatever gets delivered isn't what they were expecting.
Right. All right, Todd, you're up.
OKRs.
Oh, OKRs. So I say shot in the foot because you can't just do it as a product team and say, yay, we're doing OKRs. You got to have connection to other teams and up and down and left and right in order for it to really work as a silver bullet.
Yeah. Actually, I was just dealing with a client or an organization where they were trying to implement OKRs and there were challenges because they were still very siloed. And so definition of success for marketing, for sales, for product, for IT had very, very specific departmental goals that were not tied to what's the objective we're trying to get to. How do we know we're getting there? So they were struggling. And so I guess the long-winded answer is I support Ryan. I think unless there's a change management component and you have the right culture, and more times than not, it's a shot in the foot.
I think we could apply this to any method you use for goal management. Call them goals, call them priorities, call them OKRs, call them whatever you want, rocks. No matter what it is, if you are an output-minded organization that thinks in terms of solutions and outputs for goals, it's going to be reflected. That's why I think it's a shot in the foot. Like, you don't fix the problem. The problem is you don't understand what an outcome is. It just doesn't matter how you write it.
Right. All right, guys, are you ready for my second one? Product-led growth.
Oh, that was on my list too.
I don't think people understand it. I also think it was a fad. And because of that, I think it's a shot in the foot because you have to understand the principles behind it. And I think people read it maybe in an article and they're like, okay, we should do this. But I don't think they really understand what the impact is to the sales team. It requires everyone top down to understand this new philosophy and way of working. And I've yet to see an organization do it really, that I've worked with. I've seen other organizations do it really well, but for the most part, if you don't really understand what you're doing and have a culture built around it, it's a shot in the foot.
Like, you think about the background of Silver Bullet, like where it came from, right? The whole idea, the mythology around, you could use this bullet. It's been applied to witches, to werewolves, to vampires. The idea is This is one shot, one bullet, and that ends this scary monster, right?
Mhm.
Because of that definition of silver bullet, I can't call PLG a silver bullet because there is no quick one-shot application of it.
Yep.
If you want to have product-led growth motion at your company, it's a very thoughtful process that requires the entire company to get aligned. It's not something you can do as a product organization.
Right.
Even continuous discovery is something you could do just as a product organization. You don't need sales buy-in. You don't need anyone else to buy in. You just do it. You can't just do product-led growth. You can't walk in as a director of product management and say, today, we're going to add a product-led growth motion to our product. For that reason, I'm like, I can't call it a silver bullet. I still feel there's a lot of value there. And it's worth considering, what's the product-led growth motion for my product? Is there one?
Yeah.
Is there a way? Because if we can shorten that path to revenue, if we can reduce the emphasis on sales, it's a valuable outcome to achieve. It's just between the two, it's going to be more shot in the foot.
All right. Joe, do you got another one for us?
Daily stand-up.
Oh, this is a spicy one. I love that you said that. And you know what's so funny is I think even as recent as a year ago, I probably would have just said, no, like daily stand-up required. The accountability is important. Oh man, you got me all twisted in the knots here. The question is it more silver bullet or is it more shot in the foot? I'm going to ride or die. I'm going to stick with silver bullet. Here's why I'm going to say that. And Ryan can disagree with me. That'd be fun. Because again, kind of like when I said continuous discovery, any little bit is better. I feel the same way about accountability. All a daily stand-up is an opportunity, accountability, to be accountable to your team. To say, I said I would do this and I did it. Or I said I would do it and I didn't do it. And that's really all it is. You can call it by any other name, stand-up, scrum, huddle, whatever. It's an accountability practice.
He's tossing a silver bullet. I am going to disagree. I'm going to say meetings like stand-ups are weaponized in business. They are made to just get people together to check the box, to say we did the ceremony, we give some task updates, and maybe 40% of the people in the room are listening or invested in what was just said. And there's no real questions answered. And it's just another meeting to go to that people are frustrated by.
Yeah.
My problem with stand-ups is the idea is it was supposed to be the development team. What is it like? It's supposed to be large enough to feed 2 pizzas. It was supposed to be, we're supposed to delegate and build
pizzas
trust.
Get very hungry.
Yeah, I know.
2 pizzas.
That's a different discussion for a different day. No, but in all seriousness, I think the challenge with stand-ups is everybody has to attend them. Yeah. Like we dealt with this at another company I worked with where there were like 40 people in the stand-up. I'm like, guys, whoa. Because what was happening is the CEO was like, I need a status update. And then all the people that reported to the CEO are like, oh, I need to have a status update. And so then they were sending people. So then for like every division or every business unit, they were sending like 3 people to this meeting. And, it was supposed to be a daily stand-up because we were doing development work.
Oh,
and
gosh,
we've lost sight of
the
purpose, the values, the impact, and it just becomes...
It's a shot in the foot. Yep.
It's a total shot. It's a waste of time for everybody. Nothing positive comes out of it.
It's also, especially as soon as you get layers of leadership.
Yeah.
There's just no reasons for it.
And then they're
it's
upset. And they're upset because they're not involved and they got to be in the know. And there's not delegation. There's not trust. There's not transparency. And so because of that, there's a bad culture. Everyone's got to attend every meeting. Everyone's in meetings all day and nothing ever gets done.
So our COO says something about this. I love his point of view. He coaches high school girls basketball. And one thing he says is, I have them huddle on the court. When there's a decision to be, when there's a stoppage in play, they huddle on the court to talk about, how things are going, whatever, with each other. They're being accountable to each other. It's not him leading that. It's them leading that. And so stand-up done right and applied correctly, that's what it is. It's the team being accountable to each other. They don't need management there. So it has nothing to do with management. It's the same as a huddle on a basketball court.
And I think that's what I mean when I say they're weaponized, where it is like a leader coming in saying, you have to tell me where we're at and what's going on.
All right, I had an idea for a rapid fire game.
Yes.
Because I had this thought as we were going through this. Some of these are closer, more silver bullet than others. Some of these are like worse shots in the foot than others.
Yeah.
So here's my idea for what we could do. We're going to tier list it now.
Oh.
F means it's the furthest thing from a silver bullet.
Yeah.
F, and then D, C, B, A. So just grades, right? A, B, C, D, F. And then you have S at the top. That's usually they have S for like the superior tier.
Yeah.
But we're going to call it the silver bullet tier.
Silver bullet.
So let's go through the ones we had. So we all agreed product tool, shot in the foot. What tier does it belong in?
I'll go F.
You can go all the way to an F. I'm going to say a D. It's only a D if you get the implementation right up front.
Okay, we're D or F tier there. Product demos.
I go A.
Oh, wow. So close to the silver bullet.
Yeah, I was gonna say a C on that one for me.
Wow, I was gonna say C too.
Anyone that ever attended any of my training knows I still hold that product demos are the single most underrated and underutilized Agile ceremony. If you do it right.
Well, okay.
I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to give us a B. We'll put it on the B.
All right.
It's a B tour.
Yeah.
All right. So we got product tools in the F. We got product demos in the B tier. Continuous discovery.
A.
Yeah, I'll go A because your touch points with the customer. Yeah. So even little to no is still better than nothing.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Product-led growth.
F.
Yeah, F. D minus.
All right, it's going on the F tier. I'm putting it on the F tier too. Stand up.
C.
C.
I feel C too.
Yeah.
Wow, we're all aligned here. OKRs.
C
this one
minus.
is a tough one. C minus.
C. I'm gonna go C.
I'm gonna go with an F
D.
just because of the difficulty to do it. It is. It requires
it's hard.
Everybody in the organization.
We'll split the difference. We'll put it on D.
All right.
Okay, now I'm just going to throw out a couple other ones. Maybe you have one. Prioritization framework X.
By the way, for our listeners, this is Todd's low-key way of knocking my my love of Wischief. So just let everyone, this is just Todd's low-key way of kind of giving me crap. So just let everyone know.
No,
not at all.
I don't think so, Joe, because this happens all the time where you see an organization say, all right, we're going to use this prioritization technique now. It's going to help us make all these decisions. It'll be great. We're not going to make any wrong decisions anymore.
Now, I got to point this out. It's not, do you have a prioritization framework?
Right.
Because having a prioritization framework is, yes, you have to have one. It's a must-have. It's that a specific prioritization framework is going to solve your problems.
Right.
Oh,
yeah, that's
a D. That's a D.
Or an F. I mean, holy smokes! The prioritization technique is like
I had it on D too.
It's an invitation for a discussion. Is what it should be.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly right, Joe.
Yes.
High five.
Yeah.
I'll give another one. Jobs to be done.
This hurts, Todd.
Does this go to S tier? Does this go to S tier for Joe?
I'm just going to go off on I'm going to get on my soapbox and just kind of say this to everybody. Okay. All right. Jobs to be done. Just to make sure our listeners understand. Jobs to be done in 3 tiers. There's the emotional job to be done, which is help me feel. There's the functional job to be done, which is help me do, which is the most common one. Everyone does functional jobs to be done phenomenally. Then there is the social, which is help me see. My contention is people organizations gloss over social and emotional. If they spent the time understanding the social and emotional jobs to be done, they would have delivery of better products. They would have more satisfied customers. They would have more repeat customers. But because they only gloss over those two and only focus on the functional, which everyone does really well, as painful as this is, I'm going to give it a C plus D.
Wow.
I am
because they gloss over it. It could be.
I was going to, you know what's so funny? I was going to give it a B.
Wow.
You know why? Like exactly what you said. The value of emotional and social jobs, which is why I used it in a training recently. I do believe it's very high. And if you understand that there's different jobs, there's a lot of value there. But I agree with you. The application can be so poor. The execution can be so poor, which keeps it from getting a little higher on my list. But okay, C or B, where do you go sit, Ryan?
So I was much more optimistic than you guys. I was going to give it an A for this reason. I agree with you. Execution can be poor, but it is such an accessible technique for any product team.
It's so easy to understand too.
Yeah,
it is. And you can do it without needing a lot of other people.
You can do it, and you can apply it to anything.
And it unlocks so much. Like the gain is outward.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, I have one last question for us then.
Okay.
Let me read what we got so far. And I just went with averages, and if two of us agreed and one of us didn't, I went with that.
What's our GPA?
F tier, product tools and product-led growth.
Yeah.
D tier, OKRs and prioritization framework, X.
Yeah.
C tier, stand-up. B tier, product demos and jobs to be done. A tier, continuous discovery. My question is there something that belongs in S tier then?
No.
I agree. I don't think there is no such thing as a silver bullet.
There's usually a combination of different things that have to happen.
Right. So let me just talk through my criteria for the silver bullet. A silver bullet technique would have to be super easy to implement, make it an outward change to the organization if you alone can start doing it and not rely on everybody around you to start doing it. But there's too many situations out there where you try these techniques and you're not addressing the underlying problems first. Yes. Therefore, you just make the same mistakes in a different way.
It's like the Ozempic of product management. It's like we're trying to find the Ozempic.
Exactly.
Right? It's like Todd's like workout analogy. But that's the value. That's what makes really good product managers very valuable, because they recognize there aren't silver bullets, and it requires a lot of different tools and techniques and best practices and process and failure and trial and error.
Joe,
Correct.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's not the process. So most of the time, every single one of these techniques has been deployed to great effect at some organization somewhere. Otherwise, they wouldn't exist, right? But what people fail to recognize, it's like they see the before and after shot, right? And they don't see all the middle, the road that led there.
Right.
And that's the important bit, is the middle that gets you there, using all of these things in the right way. So if you want to be a valuable product manager, do it the right way. Look, why did that technique work for them? How can I use some of those ideas or culture or principles to better serve my purpose instead of just checking the boxes, right?
I think that leads into my next question for you guys.
Yeah.
That's a perfect lead in. So as we're doing this right now, someone's boss is reading a book or listening to a podcast where three yahoos think they know everything about product management.
Yes.
And they're going, that's the thing. That's the thing we need to do. And they're coming back and they're going to bequeath this upon the team, right?
What was that word again?
Bequeath.
Wow, we're going to the SAT vocabulary here. Todd's sharing his vernacular, and he's trying not to be ostentatious with his.
Ostentatious.
Sorry.
Now you sound like one of my favorite broadcasters, Walt Frazier, right there.
There you go.
The great Walt Frazier.
Great Walt.
Anyway, someone out there is having this silver bullet technique bequeathed upon them right after we have said there is no such thing as a silver bullet technique. What do they do?
So I think the first thing you have to do is put on your product manager hat and start asking why. How can we define how this will help us? Help your organization put boundaries around that, because I think the trap people fall into very quickly and easily is a leader is coming to them saying, this is what we're going to do. And they just say, okay. And they start to make assumptions, interpretations, and they do some learning on their own. And all of a sudden, the expectations are misaligned. Things just go poorly. The step number one, find out why. Like, what do you see this helping us do? And then look for those principles that I was talking about, the underlying principles, to see how that you can use things in your capacity to move that needle in the direction that is expected.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're not telling a leader not to do any of these techniques. We're telling them they can be successful. It just requires a lot of planning. It requires trial and error. It requires pilots. It requires change management. There's a lot that goes into some of these OKRs, some of them more than others, which are more of a cultural change, whereas some of these are like, you got to do your homework. There are no shortcuts.
And let me speak from the individual team member point of view. I love that you said that. So if you're an individual team member and you've had this thing put upon you, this is a new thing, read this book, whatever, my recommendation is lean in.
Yeah.
Read the book. Listen to the podcast. Understand how it works. We're trained to be critical thinkers as product managers. And so you might see issues with this, but you can't speak from any place of influence if you haven't taken the effort to understand. It's just like empathizing with customers and users and stakeholders.
Yeah.
Right? So read the book, go through it. My recommendation for most people is apply it the way it's been put out there.
That's right.
Become the person who is the one actually facilitating. I like what you said, Ryan. Find the value in it. And if things start to not work, they're going to listen to you. When you come back and say, look, we've been running it for a month.
Yeah.
These are the challenges I'm seeing, because what always matters is context.
Right.
Every context is different. And so you might be able to come back and say, I know the book says it's like this. We tried it for a month. Here's, I think, the issue. Here's how I might be able to adjust based on our context. But certainly, just protesting and saying no from the beginning and stomping your feet around like a toddler is not going to help.
Yeah. And Todd, I want to just address something quickly, because there's two ends of the spectrum. The one you mentioned of don't act like a toddler, stomp your feet and say no. There's also the reaction of, I'm just blindly going to say yes and follow.
Right. No.
Still learn. Still inform yourself. Right?
Yes, inform yourself. Right. Don't just take their word for it. Go to the source.
Right.
Go learn it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do our takeaways.
Okay. So my takeaway is this. Always remember, any of these techniques that we talk about, it's not a sprint. It's a journey.
Yeah.
Look for the quick wins. Celebrate, socialize the quick wins. Show the value. And let that be the driver to grow it within your organization. That's how you can turn it into a silver bullet. It's a process. You've got to be patient.
Yeah. I mean, we said it a bunch of times already, but I'll say it again. There's no such thing as a shortcut. So don't fool yourself into thinking that you're going to hack your way into problem fixes. If there are underlying problems in the organization, or growth is stalling, or somebody is approaching you with, this is what we're going to do, it's going to fix everything, be skeptical and inform yourself. That's what I would say.
Something that came up, Joe had mentioned it multiple times. It just sticks out to me as a theme. Something I take away from this conversation is just how important training is. We sometimes take for granted that things are easy. I do that. I have my tiny acts of discovery process I implement. I, have my outcome roadmap that I love. And I take for granted that it's taken me a lot of time to get to the point where I can execute on those things successfully. If you're a product leader, you have to be very intentional about how you train. If you're not, and you're a team member, you got to be very intentional about how you learn. Right, folks, this was so fun.
This was really good.
I like the games. The games are fun, guys.
This is good.
We need more games.
Yeah. I do like the games.
We need to make the product porch game.
We
do. The product porch
so
game.
Everyone can play at home.
Oh, see? The kids are going to love it.
Different colored porch chairs as your...
That's right. Little places. I call red.
I want the Cracker Barrel one.
The Cracker Barrel. All right, guys. Great to see you as always.
Good to see you guys. Stay out of trouble.
See you, fellas. Yep.
All right, bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Product Porch. We release new episodes every 2 weeks. You can also find us on LinkedIn for more content. We offer a special thank you to AJ and Jack Block here for the music. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts of this podcast are their own and do not represent nor necessarily reflect those of their employer.